I want to thank everyone who watched episode 1 with my guy Tony Moore. I had a great time doing it. I'm going to do it again. This is going to be a weekly thing. I know most podcasts die out if we're not consistent with it. So regardless of the quality, I just want to keep pushing out stuff to you guys. Like I said, I can't thank y'all enough I got 75 views in a whole week, and that means so much. I thought I'd get like 3 max. 1 for me, my wife, and probably Tonio from watching it. But again, I do want to thank everybody so much for going ahead and watching episode 1. But here's episode 2. I'm gonna kick it off solo. A little nervous today, but we're gonna rock it out. The first thing I want to get to, which I think is pretty crazy. The Clippers' new arena in Inglewood is, for lack of a better word, amazing. Holy crap. I really want you guys, I'm going to put up a little link either on this side or this side. I don't really know how I'm going to do it when I edit this, but we're going to, I just want to, like the inside of it is crazy. It makes it seem like that is like super big time. Like what's sad is I feel like if it was any other team other than the Clippers, it would be talked about so much more. But also like how Jacksonville's doing their new little like the Jaguars like area downtown in Jacksonville. I wonder if that's what the Clippers are gonna do. Because if you look at like Detroit's like training facilities and shit like that, like I think LA will definitely improve, especially around in Inglewood. Over there, but I do think it is funny, regardless if they make the playoffs to play the Lakers, it's still going to be a Lakers home game. Doesn't matter where it's at, but it's just that arena looks pretty incredible, and I think it'll put a lot of pressure on a lot of other NBA owners to be like, hey, y'all's arenas fucking suck. But yeah, I remember I saw a meme, or not a meme, a little article about what they're trying to do out there, and I just was like, I have to talk about that on the show. And anyway, gonna keep going. So back to the Ravens-Chiefs game. So during this, I don't want to sound like a homer at all. I don't know if you guys can tell, Baltimore Ravens fan here, but the Ravens-Chiefs, I think that was one of the better games we're probably gonna see this year. Everyone's questioning the Chiefs' defense and stuff like that, but I think again, man, it's week 2. Like people are gonna get their stuff together. We saw Tennessee get rocked by the Cardinals, and then again they ended up settling down, took Seattle, who I also again think is a really, really good team. They took them to overtime, ended up getting the dub. But the Ravens-Chiefs games, we got to stop with this quarterback versus quarterback thing. It's all about Lamar Jackson versus the blitz and Patrick Mahomes versus the blitz, but that's not it's not the big story, because it's quarterback, it's quarterback sleep. But the Ravens rushed for 250, I think it's 250 plus yards, like 257 probably is the exact number, but I can't remember off the top of my head. We're worried about the Chiefs because they also play the Browns in week 1. Those are probably the top 2 running attacks in the NFL. And we're acting like the Chiefs are just done for, and we found the fucking weakness of the Chiefs and blah, blah, blah. You don't have a weakness if your quarterback can end up being down 24-0 and come back and win. That's not a weakness. It just, hey, the Ravens played better this Sunday. We're moving on to Detroit. You know what I mean? The same thing for the Chiefs. Played bad, lost. They're moving on to the Chargers. They don't care. Like this isn't. We need to stop talking about the way this is and the way that is. But the NFL, we're in such a prime year this year, especially after the COVID. All the fans are back. Everything's so new. It's like, ooh, this is happening. Ooh, that's happening. But we gotta remember like where we're at. You know what I mean? Like, why can't we just enjoy the great games that are happening? That's all. Like, let's just, hey, that was a good game. Monday night was a good game. Sunday night was a good, like, that's just what happens, But yeah, man, we just gotta, everybody take a chill pill. The Ravens are not about to be gangbusters out here. We're getting the running game back together, what it's supposed to be. Lamar, especially with Harbaugh, that's what I was gonna say, is Lamar and Coach Harbaugh, they're both sitting there, and Coach Harbaugh is like, do you want to go for this? Lamar, hell yeah. I read, and I was even telling my wife, who was asleep at the time, but I still told her, I don't care that she was asleep, because I got a little loud after the fumble, and I was just like, do you see that? That's a trust in your offense. Like, and that's not what most media is talking about is the trust that they have in Lamar to throw it. Because if it was a 4th and 1 and Lamar had to throw the ball, I think it's the same call. It doesn't matter. Like, it would have. I think Lamar still would have took it down to try to run it. But I think that shows the trust instead of kicking it, as opposed to a Matt LaFleur, like, let's kick a field goal and try to get it. No. Let's fucking go win the game right now. And I think that said a lot about the Ravens this week. Penn State and Auburn. So that was a college game day. That's why I'm going to talk about that game probably a little more than I'll talk about the Bama-Florida game. But I think the SEC has done such a good job of saying how great they are and how wonderful, because they are. The SEC is top notch. But we talk about them like it's the SEC and everybody else. Even last week, me and Antonio talked about, is it Alabama and everybody else? And while that may be true, because it probably is, the SEC is weaker than we think. The SEC is really good. Again, I'm going to say it again. The SEC is really good. But we got to pay attention. Like, Wisconsin's good. Penn State's good. Michigan State is coming back this year. I think Michigan State is going to wreck shop this year in the Big Ten. And probably it'll end up fucking breaking some of the college football brackets. If you look at Clemson, they're having a down year. I'm starting to think maybe that offense just isn't ready to do what Trevor Lawrence was able to do out there. Ohio State, oh my gosh. I think Ohio State's suffering from having a freshman at quarterback. We're not talking about how Ohio State hasn't. When's the last time a freshman started for Ohio State? We'll go back a little bit. Justin Fields, he played at Georgia in the SEC. He's played big time in a big time program. Maybe not big time minutes before he showed up to Ohio State, but he understood moments. This freshman, again, he didn't even get to play in a college football game with no fans, and now he's out here with all these fans. Like, what do you want him to do? I think a lot of the heavies are talked about the SEC in the way that we're not talking about the other things, because the SEC has some freshman QBs out there, but they're also surrounded by literal NFL offensive lines, defensive lines, and defensive secondaries with also NFL wide receivers. I don't think Ohio State, regardless of all the talent they have around them, I think it's not subpar to Bama. That's not what I'm saying, but I think the culture in Alabama is a little bit more different. You see it differently than you do like up north. Maybe I'm wrong, but I like the Big Ten. Ohio State I'm down on a little bit this year, but like I said, those other teams I'm very, very, very pro the Big Ten. But I do want to talk about the whiteout aspect, right? Like, we sit here and it's, the whiteout game. Oh, Penn State, the fans are so raucous. Da-da. No, they're not. Penn State, when they went up, they ended up going up. I couldn't tell you the name of the score, but when they went up, they had a go-ahead touchdown. The place was rocking for literally 5 seconds after that, and then nothing after that. And then third down happened for Auburn, and it was pretty fucking loud. And then fourth down happened, and it was still loud. But throughout the game, dude, we're not looking at all these spots where that's what happened. Like, the crowd was loud the whole time. Like, that's not what happened. Like, the crowd was loud in the spots it was, like, supposed to be loud. But, like, the shoe is that loud almost every down when the defense is out there. And I think Penn State does have a problem with being an at-home team, is they don't have the advantages of most other teams would have. And it's kind of shitty because the whiteout game was talked up, because, again, I think the SEC has such a media bias as well that, like, oh, Alabama or Auburn only failed because of the whiteout game, and because of that, it's like, no, Penn State was just a better team than Auburn. That was it, and that's fine. Like, I don't understand, like, why that's not the argument. It's like, oh, look how great Penn State played. Not saying, like, Auburn's a shitty team. Like, no, or Penn State is just a better team. Or even, at the very minimum, Penn State's a better team that Saturday. Is that so bad to say? But I got a question from somebody's friend of the podcast. Jason from Alabama. I'm pretty sure he's from Alabama. I honestly don't. We've argued too much to remember where he's from. But shout out to Jason, just bought his new house. Really happy for you, brother. Alabama's performance against Florida. Great game. I don't know if anyone else watched the Alabama-Florida game, but Really, really, really good game. Closer than I thought. I thought it would be close towards maybe the middle of the third quarter, maybe a little like late third quarter. But the fact that Florida hung in there and did what they were supposed to do, that's coaching, man. I think Hugh Freeze had the Gators ready to play against Alabama, especially the number one team coming in there is the University of Alabama. Like the way, and again, me and Antonio talked about it last episode, is we just think Alabama is like untouchable, and then they'll play Florida, and you're like, see, that's why Alabama is so much better. And it's like Alabama's dominated, like the after halftime, like maybe the first drive after in the third, Alabama started to get a little rocky, and Florida was like, okay, let's capitalize here, let's capitalize there. Florida had I gotta look at my paper, my bad. Just to remember the stats, Florida still had 439 yards against Alabama. That doesn't happen. And especially the way the SEC is going towards offense, like we understand now, the college football game is different. You got to spread it out. Even Nick Saban gets it, and that's why he's getting all these top-notch quarterback recruits coming to Alabama, because he understands that that's where we're going. Is the QB is the answer. And I just think in Gainesville, the Florida crowd was probably better than the Penn State crowd, and Alabama still was able to overcome it. I was really impressed with Alabama. They're going to the college football championship. I don't think Georgia's gonna be able to compete, especially to that level, because again, I just don't see it. Maybe Georgia could not wake up, because Georgia's playing great, but I think there's something Saban has over those assistants, and I don't know what it is. Like I feel like maybe Nick just knows something to their core and knows what's going on in their brain a little bit, not before they do, but before it's able to be game planned. Maybe Nick just has something over top of them to where, like, you and I aren't gonna just see that. You know what I mean? Like, we're not seeing the extreme football side to what Nick is thinking about for them. You know what I mean? It's such on this crazy smart level of what's happening, and we just don't get it. But again, so the Buckeyes, I'm gonna come back to the Buckeyes one more time. Like, are they college football, or are they gonna be college football playoff ready? Like, are they gonna be able to perform with an Alabama, a Clemson, even a Georgia? You know what I mean? Like we were just talking about, like, are they going to be able to handle those situations? And like I said, Ohio State, this freshman quarterback, now maybe he'll get it together, but he's a freshman. Like, we don't have these crazy high expectations for some of these freshmen. Look at Matt Corral. Look at even Sam Howell. We have these expectations now after we saw him do it for a while. You know what I mean? It's not this brand new guy, like, oh, this is going to be like Spencer Ratliff. Like, are we having these high? No, we don't. We want to see what they can do, and then we're going to turn it into. Ohio State's defense, that's a completely different thing. But I want to get to Cincinnati. So I have been the biggest hater. I'll say it. I have been a hater, and I'm especially wrong with these FBS programs. When it was Boise State back in the day, I was 15, 16. Boise State has nothing on any of these FBS programs. I'm not even worried about them. They needed a trick play to beat Oklahoma a long time ago, and people still talk about that like that's wild. Like, no, it's not. The big dogs are the top four, and that's what it is in college football. And I think if Cincinnati went to the college football playoff, they would get their butts handed to them like Ohio State did in 2016, I think it was. But with all that being said, I think I've been saying Indiana's also overhyped, but I think they're well coached. I like the pressure. The quarterback was under. Excuse me. Now's a good time to take a Twisted Tea timeout. That's going to be a new segment here. Is a Twisted Tea timeout. But like I was saying, I think that we are going to overestimate or underestimate. There's no biased baseline judgment call on some of these FBS schools. But what I like with Luke Fickell in Cincinnati is they're playing some a Big Ten program. They're going to go play Notre Dame, and we're going to see what that's like. And I think Cincinnati has a chance. They're going to be at Indiana, at Notre Dame. Like, come on. that he's trying to show the world like Cincinnati's here and they're here to stay. It hurt me to not talk about Coastal Carolina if I'm talking about non-FBS. I know they're still only ranked like 16th. I don't think they went up from last week. I don't even think they went up a spot. But that offense, man, it took them a second to get going against Buffalo. But I also think that Buffalo coaching staff has a lot, has changed a lot in that program to where like Buffalo, I think eventually with the MAC, they could be serious contenders for the MAC championship. But Coastal Carolina, I don't know what happened. Like, I got to study up more for next episode, but this one, I really felt like I had to talk about Coastal Carolina. That the way they were running that spread with the offense, and I don't want to get the kid's name wrong, but I'm going to give it an attempt anyway, was McCullen or McCutcheon, or it was some shit like that. I can't, McCoy is something like that. But that quarterback, man, when he was able to get those QB draws, there was a lot of coverage that like he was looking at. And you can see him sit in the pocket. You can see him trying to find somewhere to go, but there was some of those receivers weren't getting open, so he'd hit some of the bootleg. He's not Patrick Mahomes. Before we get to there, but those Patrick Mahomes type. All right, bootleg out. Okay, fuck. I just bootleg to the left. I'm coming back to the right, and I'm going to see what's open. And then those receivers and those tight ends were like, oh, fuck, I see something's happening. I need to come back, and I need to move around for my QB to hit me in the open spot. And that's what happened. But, yeah, we need to be on the lookout for Cincinnati because I think they got a real team. They're not scared to go in. They're not scared to play anybody. It got kind of dirty, too, kind of messy towards the end where Cincinnati was like, oh, you guys think y'all hung in here with us? Absolutely not. And they showed them that they're powered and somebody to be messed with. Oh, shit. I did forget a question from Jason, too. My bad, dude. So the Cowboys' performance on Sunday against the Chargers. I think that defense has super stepped up. I thought maybe Thursday night last week was going to be a big fluke. Not in a fluke in the sense of like playing well, but I thought the Cowboys aren't going to get you 4 turnovers. It's just not going to happen. But again, I was wrong. I'm wrong. Shit happens, man. But they played the Chargers really tough. I think not having to lean on Dak Prescott for every second of every down, that game was really big for them. Tony Pollard coming out of the woodwork, released Zeke Elliott today. Fuck it. Are you guys crazy? He was able to run all over that Chargers defense. But so was Antonio Gibson. So I want to see maybe the Chargers that defensive line who still played pretty okay if you look in the passing game. Just let some of those runs. But let's not take away the blocks from CD and Amari Cooper. Like some of those blocks were really, 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 really good. The Cowboys the Cowboys played pretty well offensively, but we go from 1 week, you need Dak for every single thing, and then you go play another team and you don't really, not that you don't need Dak, but you're not going to lay on him as heavy as you do every other week. And then I want to see in Philly, is it going to be all Dak or nothing? And if that's the case, we're just going to do this topsy-turvy. Yes, the Cowboys are good. No, the Cowboys aren't good. Yes, they are. And then they're going to end up being an average team like I think they really are. I think that defense needs a lot of help. I think that that offensive line is still good. Even if you take out if you take out Zach Martin, I still think that offensive line is still good enough. I think they're wonderfully coached. I think the talent they got on the outside, and even Zeke, and especially Tony Pollard now, if he can continuously have the role that he's getting and maybe keep showing up for it to show people like, hey, I'm for real, and maybe get himself a contract with some other team because the Cowboys, they got Zeke, and they're probably not going to take him that way, then yeah, I think the Cowboys might be somebody to mess with. But I was also, some of this stuff, so I was watching the Saints and the Panthers game, and you guys know when you watch the NBA playoffs, you got Inside the Huddle and you got Doc sitting there, and then he's going there, you gotta, with however his voice, that was probably a pretty awful Doc impression, but I'm gonna ride that out. But the inside, it's Inside the Huddle, right, with fucking on TNT, The NFL, you have Wired, right? But it's always after. It's always after all the games. It's always edited into all these things. But like, I saw that the Saints, Ian Book was out there running those substitutions. I would have loved to seen him inside the huddle with like telling, hey man, we get to a 4th and long, this is what's happening. Hey, we get to a 3rd and 5, this is what we're gonna do, or this is who's going in. Shit like that. Like, why don't we have that? But again, that's for you guys to chew on and get back to me with, because maybe y'all know something that I don't, and we just need to get that in the NFL. So if you guys can help me get on that train, that's where we need to get. But that brings me to our next question. From another couple of friends from the podcast, because we had somebody ask a question and we had a couple people jump on that bandwagon. So this comes from my man Justin, way out in Sigonella, and my buddy Austin, who's hopped on the bandwagon to ask the same question. The Saints QB dilemma. There is none. The Saints, they played pretty well against the Packers. We didn't see anything from Jameis that was like, oh, wow, he's the man. Yeah, Billy, but he threw 5 touchdowns. Like, okay, he threw 14 passes, or excuse me, he threw 20 passes, completed 14 of them for 5 touchdowns and 148 yards. That doesn't mean, no, I don't think anyone anointed Jameis like this wonderful, wonderful QB yet. He can see, which is awesome. I think that's, probably one of many battles as a QB that you should have, is being able to see. But you don't want Taysom Hill. Taysom Hill is not the answer long term. He's not. We saw last year, he's just not the answer long term. There's no QB dilemma. I think the Panthers are a lot better than anyone is giving them credit for, especially Saints fans, because y'all just think that you're used to Drew Brees, to where he's going to throw 400 yards every single game or throw 5 touchdowns every single game, which is, I think, maybe most Saints fans, again, I haven't talked to Austin and or Justin about that, but most Saints fans are kind of calm. They're ready to see what else Jameis can do, because you got a bad game out of the way. Let's see if he can take some adversity, and let's see if he can take some of those things that he learned this week and get into next week. You know what I mean? It's only week 2. There's no real, like, super far taken away. Obviously, the Bucs are going to win that division, but if the Saints and Carolina are going to be battling back and forth, do you think the game in New Orleans is going to be any different against Carolina? The answer is yes. It's going to be way different. James is going to have those fans. He's going to have everything happening for him, and we're going to see where it goes from there. But we can't overestimate week 2. After week 3, maybe we can see a pattern, I think. And I'll definitely come back to this, because I'm also very interested in what's going on with that. But the Raiders, Henry Ruggs. So I was sitting here watching on Sunday, and I just noticed there was some of the Raiders plays. There was one big time touchdown to Henry Ruggs, and if you ever noticed Henry Ruggs touchdown plays, there's always somebody on the ground. And I'm not taking anything away from Henry Ruggs, because he's obviously making them fall to the ground, but there's something to be said with all these motherfuckers on the ground when Henry Ruggs is out there scoring a fucking 60-yard touchdown. Like, I don't know if it's Derek Carr, who I think is better than everyone's giving him credit for. I think that MVP year, and then they had a shitty year next year, and then Jack Del Rio got fired, and we're sitting here like, what the fuck's going on? John Gruden's ruining that franchise. I'm still on that train. I'll hop off when I feel it's necessary, but as of right now, 2-0 doesn't mean shit to me, other than Derek Carr's better than we all give him credit for. So with Henry Ruggs and the Raiders beating the Steelers, I got one more question from my buddy Cody, who's a big Steelers fan. He's up there in South Carolina now, so I hope it's nice out there. Let me know how life's living out there, so I can see if that's where we're going to end up going. But and I'm going to quote this question. This is not from me. This is no bias here, no matter how much I hate the Steelers. But he said, what's up with the Steelers' shitty offense? Okay, so I just wanted to quote. That's a quote. That is not from your boy at all. But the Steelers, man, I think we thought Najee was going to come in and be a Willie Parker type, fast out of the backfield, was able to catch the ball, which he did a little bit against Vegas, caught the ball, had like a 25, 27, maybe even 37, something like that, touchdown catch, what you're like sitting there like, okay. But the running game isn't helping anybody. Like, you can have Deontay Johnson going off like he did. You can have Chase Claypool having a good game. Juju's out there as well. But it's not going to work if the running game's not open. Najee still had 14 carries for 38 yards. That's literally what was happening to James Conner last year. Is the Steelers aren't able to run the ball. So you're sitting there. Big Ben's old. He's not being able to make these quick reads. He's not quick release time. None of that's going on, and we're looking at them like they're supposed to be this great offense because we look at Big Ben and it's like, maybe he's getting old. Like, maybe that's what's happening. Drew Brees had, excuse me one more second, throat's getting a little dry. Twisted Tea timeout. But Drew Brees said it on Sunday Night Football. It was like last Sunday. He said that the Saints were throwing the ball down the field, and that isn't something they've been able to do for the last couple of years. And we're looking at the Steelers, Steel Curtain, Mike Tomlin, who's a great coach. We're looking at them like they're supposed to be these ruck shots, but they're not. The offense is not any good. That defense can be out there, which is a great defense, by the way, and then TJ Watt gets hurt, and then you're sitting there like, fuck, now we can't rush the passer. If you can make 8-minute drives out there on the Steelers defense and bring the offense in to where now they got to throw 3 times in a row, and that running game isn't really working, that offensive line isn't good either. So there's a lot of question marks around the Steelers, but they've been trying to put duct tape all over all these spots on the field where to help Big Ben, and it's like, maybe we should just let Big Ben go, get a cheaper contract, regardless of how cheap his is. We got to get some players in here that can play, especially on the offensive line. That linebacking core also needs help ever since Ryan Shazier. Thank God he's up, he's walking around, good for him. But ever since he's kind of gone out, like, Steelers linebackers, we haven't really had, we have a Devin Bush, hasn't really been making a name for himself. I know he got hurt last year. This year, we haven't heard a lot from him. He might be hurt again. I'm not here to fucking have every single stat written down to know what's going on. But that's where the Steelers are at. Is as soon as Big Ben gets out of there, we'll see what's going on because teams are able to be afloat. If you look at what happened last year, 11-0 for the first couple games, and then tumbling right to the playoffs. The Browns showed up, kicked the dog shit out of them. Good for Cleveland too, by the way, but the Steelers are not the Steelers of the past, and we got to stop fixating that they were so good because they're not anymore. Excuse me. And then, so Tonio, he brings me in a question, and he goes, talk about Ole Miss having the best offense in the SEC. And they do. I went back, and I had to look this one up. So Oklahoma had 309 passing yards, against Tulane. That's who Ole Miss played last week. And Ole Miss had 335. I'm not saying Ole Miss is here to be shitty. I'm not saying Ole Miss is shitty because I don't want Tony to come in and yell at me after this podcast. But I think Ole Miss hasn't played up to the competition that some maybe a Florida. Like, I think if Florida were to play a Tulane or somebody else out in the fucking Sun Belt, I think maybe Florida would have close to the offensive numbers, so it wouldn't be so skewed because Ole Miss is averaging like 635 yards per game, and Florida's only averaging like 50 or 558 yards a game, and Ole Miss is out here slinging the thing with Matt Corral. I think he's the Heisman favorite as of right now. You can't tell me that he's not because who else is? And the answer is nobody. Spencer Ratliff is played like poop. Sam Corral had that really shitty game against Virginia Tech, and then Virginia Tech goes and loses next week. Like, can't have it this way. This is not the way shit's supposed to go down. And I think Ole Miss, when they play Alabama, we'll see what goes down because I think that's the day that Sam Corral is either going to win or lose the Heisman. And even if he, quote unquote, loses the game and loses the Heisman, that's what I was quoting, I still think you got to consider him as one of the front runners because who else is going to have to play Alabama that is a Heisman front runner? And the answer is nobody. And then I got to talk about Monday Night Football because obviously everyone was like, oh, the Packers are going to kill the Lions. It was just a bad game. And it was in Lambeau. It was great. I loved Aaron Jones. The thing about his dad, he lost his necklace, really means a lot. Like, I thought that was really crucial. That trainer that found it Good on him. I like that, someone gave it back instead of just being an asshole and keeping it. But Peyton and Eli, holy shit. I had so much fun watching that. Like, me and my wife so I was watching it. My wife is kind of watching it, obviously. But I was watching and just intaking so much football knowledge from two people who probably have the biggest brains, and especially Peyton's actually looks like he has the biggest brain about football that I've ever seen. It was so incredibly fascinating seeing what they would have done or how they would have done things, or the way back in the day how this and this and this and this means all these other things. And if you haven't watched it, so I didn't watch it because the Ravens were playing on Monday and I really didn't want to focus on something else other than the game. But I'm kind of upset that I didn't now because of how much I've learned in literally that one Monday night game. Holy shit, man! You guys really, if you have not watched it, I've got talked to a couple buddies who were very impressed and very excited about, especially like the guests that they have. You got your Pat McAfee's, who's one of the best human beings in the world, on the show. Like, how awesome was that watching it? It's just crazy. Let me know if y'all think it sucks. I really want to know if anybody thinks it's awful or shitty. Like, that would be top notch. Just to let me know. I want to have that conversation. Let's do that. The best 2-0 teams in the league right now, man. I'm telling you, I said it earlier in the show, Carolina is the best 2-0 team, and you have Denver and you got Arizona, right? So I think I might be the biggest Cliff Kingsbury hater in here. Well, obviously in here because nobody else is, but I don't think this offense works in the league. It didn't work in college. The dude didn't win in college. So because he had a lunch with Sean McVay, we all think it's going to work in the NFL. Through 2 weeks, has it worked? Absolutely. But let's see them play the Rams, and I want to see if the same thing happens. I'm not scared of being wrong. If Kyler fucking balls out and beats the dog shit out of the Rams, I was wrong. I think if he does it against the Seahawks, I will be wrong. But I just don't see it happening. And maybe I'm crazy, but if you look at Carolina, the way they beat the Jets and they beat the Saints, right? They took their foot off the gas, I think, way early in both games, where they were just like, oh, okay, we're up, fuck it, not worried about it. And I think Matt Rule really has this team, really has his troops around him, to where he's like, all right, we're gonna win this game. I'm gonna make sure we don't lose the game too. And it's gotten a little closer than most people would like, I think, especially if you're a Panthers fan. But I really think that the Panthers are somebody to mess with. The Broncos, having Teddy Bridgewater there to kind of stabilize what's going on in that offense. They're running that 3 wide receiver set with Noah Fant, and then, and then you got that running back they just picked up, and I'm not gonna fuck his name up, but you all know, 3rd round from North Carolina. And then they have Melvin Gordon, who Teddy is able to take these things and really manipulate them into a offense that is just ran so proficient to where now that defense doesn't have to be on the field for more than half the game, and they're able to make some stops, maybe make some turnovers. Patrick Surtain, I don't know if they're all the Pat Juniors are able to be called Pats now, but Patrick Surtain, until somebody's mom tells me on Twitter, he's going to be Patrick until she says it's okay to call him Pat. So he had that key pick. I think he's going to have 100,000 more just like his dad did. But I think the Broncos are also somebody to mess with. But I think I like the Raiders a little bit more than the Broncos. I think I'll be proven wrong on that probably. But I think the Raiders are better than we're giving them credit for because we all think John Gruden's a fucking idiot. Or I do. That Khalil Mack trade was fucking stupid. You end up getting Max Crosby, who's pretty good. But that Khalil Farrell pick, when you could have had Josh Allen and Max Crosby rushing the passer, crazy as fuck. To me, just to me, maybe I'm wrong. Again, I'll be wrong. I'm not worried about it. But Carolina, speaking of the fucking 2-0 favorites, Carolina's a 7.5-point favorite at Houston next week. I'm not a fan of having a away team be favored by more than, I'd say 6, but realistically I'm looking at it 5.5. That's the highest I want my home favorite to be if it's not a Super Bowl contending team. I don't think Carolina's a Super Bowl contender. 7.5. I don't care how bad people think Houston are, because I don't think Houston is as bad as we all think. But because of what's happening situationally, we all just push them to the side and think they're going to be the worst team in the league. That's not what I think. But if I'm having, give me the points for that, or take the points, because there's no way Carolina beats Houston by more than a touchdown. No way. But next week, so I'm going to end the show on this. So next week, we got Chargers-Chiefs. Chargers aren't there yet, obviously. I think Justin Herbert's made leaps and bounds. Him and Mike Williams are really on the same page. Same thing with Keenan Allen. I think Keenan Allen is just more of his third down guy. Like, hey, I really need a fucking catch here. Jared Cook, he's had some crucial drops against the football team and against the Cowboys last week, where I was just kind of like, I kind of see why he's bouncing around from team to team to team to team, because it's just some of these situations where you're like, you've been making plays all day, and I just need you on this one third down in the fourth quarter, maybe get us a field goal to go up. I just need you to make this catch, and he dropped. I think he had one third down catch on one of the last drives, but there was one third down where like the Chargers could have put away the game, and just big time boof, big time drop. But I like the Chiefs in that game, especially after playing Baltimore and losing. And I think people are questioning that defense. That defense might really, really step it up and just show you like, hey, we're fucking Super Bowl favorites for a fucking reason. You know what I mean? And then the Bucks and the Rams. Joe Buck has to call that game, so I mean, I'm gonna watch it. So there's that. But the actual, if you're able to play some music or go to a party to where it's outside, you know, gotta listen, I'm all for it. But that'll probably be the game of the week. I think Jalen Ramsey is out here to show people what's going on. Mike Evans didn't do a fucking thing when he was on Jalen Ramsey last year. Both times they played, both times. But yeah, actually, both times they played him, Mike Evans really didn't do anything. But I think he was hurt for the playoffs. So somebody yell at me and correct me if I'm wrong. But I think that's going to be the game. I think Tom is very aware. He's about to break another record. I think he does it in New England, not at LA. But yeah, man, we got the Bucks are so good. Tom Brady is so good. We'll talk about he's thrown more passes his 44 than he did, or in his 40s than he did in his 20s. Who gives a fuck about that? The guy is just fucking great. Nobody talked about him in the 20s because he was a one-time Super Bowl MVP in his 20s. He's done it once in his 40s. I'm pretty sure he got the MVP last year too. Fuck, maybe he didn't. Was it Shaq Barrett who got the MVP last year for the Super Bowl? It was my first one with my daughter, so I could be wrong. But yeah, man, the Bucks are just stupid good, and I think we're all thinking that they're good because of Brady, and they're good because of this, and we're good because of that, and it's all, the answer is all of that. Like that's the whole thing. Gronk was actually on Peyton and Eli's Monday night thing. Also, so everybody needs to get on my train. I'm gonna call it Eli and Peyton just because I think Peyton's taken over because he's smarter, I guess. But we need to get it Eli and Peyton. Maybe we can get Eli some more money in there. But yeah, man, Gronk was on there and he was like, yeah, I don't watch film. Brady just tells me what to do. And it's like, it's so funny because people like buy into that, but it's like Tom Brady for 2 seconds would not put up with somebody not watching film, somebody who's not disciplined. And we all know that that's a big charade because Gronk is the party guy. He's the fun guy. And so we just act like, oh yeah, haha, Gronk. Like, no, that motherfucker's serious about football. There's no doubt in my mind that he doesn't watch film and he doesn't know what's going on. So this episode was a little shorter. It's by myself, so I didn't really know how I was going to go about it. I think I did an okay job. Please, again, let me know. Don't feel bad about telling me that it sucks or telling me that I need to do these things different. I took in some advice, especially for after my first show, and was definitely listening to what you guys had to say because it concerns me who I'm talking to. What do they want to see? I'm going to post it on my Twitter, on my Facebook. Again, let me know anything that you guys think that I should have changed or that was kind of fucking stupid, or maybe I talked too much or talked too fast. Just let me know, please. I just want to get this show really not perfect, because I think perfect is stupid, but I really want to get this show rolling, number one, and really like just a good enough product for you guys to actually like care and to chime in and chime to listen. But again, if you guys watched, really appreciate it. If you watched for 2 seconds and then caught the end, appreciate that too, man. Again, let me know whatever you guys think, man. Really appreciate it. This has been episode 2 with Brick Shots with Billy.